Walter Benjamin, the renowned philosopher, once said, "Storytelling is always the art of repeating stories." We live in a world where art is derived from other art. Stories are born of other stories. Almost all blockbuster movies made today are adaptations, remakes, or sequels. But to most critics, contemporary adaptation is often considered a secondary art form, either bastardizing the original work by tampering with it or betraying the original material. We should judge adaptations as just that. Adaptations. Linda Hutcheon, the writer of A Theory of Adaptation, says, "Adaptations are haunted at all times by their adapted texts. We always feel its presence, shadowing the one we are experiencing directly." Maybe I am an anomaly. I like to embrace adaptations. They are more popular than ever, and each one brings something new to the screen. In my opinion, there are two films that transcend adaptation and are the best examples of this art form. Those two films are Zack Snyder's Watchmen and Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. These specifically fit into the comic book genre, but they are both extremely different in showing us how far we have come in cinema and showcasing a novel to screen. I have 5 reasons why each are the best adaptation of their kind, and why each could be considered the most underrated film adaptations of comic books ever produced. The first reason why they are brilliant adaptations are their tone. Both films take their comic book counterpart and bring the world alive on screen. Watchmen's alternate reality of 1985 shows the world careening towards World War III with a band of Cape Crusaders, and Snyder perfectly captures the raw, grim atmosphere that is conveyed in the graphic novel. Alan Moore, the writer of the graphic novel, his powerful voice is brought to the silver screen, and a dark, noir sensibility is palpable in every scene. In the already upbeat story of Scott Pilgrim, Wright flawlessly shines a new light onto the adaptation by making it feel like you are participating in a video game. This presents an awesome adventure that never stops in its tracks, keeping us entertained from beginning to end. Visuals can make or break a film, especially when you are adapting from a comic book. The reader already has an idea of the world, the characters, the look of the comic and story, yet Snyder and Wright both took on the challenge and succeeded by creating cinematic gems. Snyder had the challenge of adapting what many considered the unadaptable, but he did it by steadily following the graphic novel panel for panel as his storyboard. We visually and literally get a book-to-screen adaptation. Watchmen is full of iconic imagery, from the bloody smiley face to Rorschach's never-ending mask, to the creation of Dr. Manhattan. We get to see it all come alive. Wright's Scott Pilgrim, though, takes a different turn and makes a visual masterpiece with the adaptation. For a comic book that looks like a cartoon, Wright expertly brought Brian Lee O'Malley's vision to the real world, and it didn't feel contrived. When Matthew Patel bursts through the ceiling of the Battle of the Bands, no one asks how it's happening, they are just amazed that it is. From the seamless cuts to the anime movement when they fight to the video game jingles, Scott Pilgrim captures the comic book aesthetic by not sticking to one genre and showing us numerous facets of this interactive world. Adaptations are always tricky, and that in part is due to characters and how they are developed on screen. When I read a comic book, I have this preconceived idea in my head of how each character will sound, what they will look like, and the overall feel of their imaginary world. Snyder and Wright brought iconic characters to life, and in doing so, I can never go back to the original stories without visualizing these adaptations and reading them in the voices of their big screen characters. Snyder had a hard task when casting for Watchmen, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's portrayal of the comedian is a holy grail of casting. Jackie Earle Haley's Rorschach carries the movie and brings the misunderstood character to light, while Billy Crudup embodies the unbelievable, tragic story of Dr. Manhattan. The costumes are also close to perfect, resembling the comic book drawings with some expectations. Scott Pilgrim also brings the comic book to life with their characters, and it is an all-star cast. Michael Cera captures the awkward quirkiness of Scott, yet makes it seem plausible that he can fight Mortal Kombat style. Mary Elizabeth Winstead gives a beautiful, mysterious portrayal of Ramona Flowers, along with the rest of the ensemble cast, who peak in their roles. Every X captures the comic book's essence to a T. From Brandon Routh as the vegan god Todd Ingram to Chris Evans as the egotistical skater/actor Lucas Lee. The chemistry between everyone in the film leaps off the screen as if they have known each other for years. With iconic line delivery, this film is just a standout.
You know this one girl with hair like this?
Yes, that's Ramona Flowers.
You once were a vegan, but now you will be gone. Young Neil, you have learned well. From this point forward, you will be known as Neil.
Besides the tone of a film, the setting sets the main backdrop and mood of a story. In both comic books, we are given unique settings that invite you into the rest of the story. These settings carry into adapted films. Watchmen's New York City is bleak and depressing, placing the cast in an alternate history, witnessing hate and war consume the world. Snyder takes the graphic novel's diverse yet demoralized city and makes it more expansive as we travel through time, going to Mars, Vietnam, and gritty inner city neighborhoods. Wright, on the other hand, takes Scott Pilgrim's basic setting of Toronto, Canada, and somehow lightens it up like a whole new world. From that beginning shot
of Toronto, Canada, Scott Pilgrim was dating a high schooler.
We immediately know where we are, but we know it's different. Change is inevitable, and whenever there is an adaptation, there are opportunities for change. The separation from their original stories are what makes Watchmen and Scott Pilgrim brilliant in their new form. Snyder's job at adapting the unadaptable was easy, as he followed the storyboard, but out of fear of the audience reaction and understanding, he changed the ending. As fans know, the novel ends with a giant squid killing millions in New York City, which we got in the 2019 television version of Watchmen. But in the movie, we are shown a nuclear-like explosion. It made more sense for this alteration, and as some fans whine and squeal, I believe that change was necessary. The director also had to take the side plot of the Tales of the Black Freighter story, which may have confused audiences. Scott Pilgrim separated itself from the comic book by adding an arcade vibe to the movie, which could not be shown within the comic book. With the little musical tones, the graphics, and the video game Easter eggs, Scott Pilgrim changes the world for the better. Wright has to make some storylines shorter, as the scene with the Kata Yanagi twins, but I mean, you can't watch this opener and not get excited for what is to come. Overall, there are many different reasons why these two films represent why adaptation can be used to perfection, but as with many adaptations, they do have their flaws. I accept these flaws because Watchmen and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World take what is known and bring a breath of fresh air to it. The tones of these films showed audiences that we can watch different genres when it comes to comic book films. The visuals captured the beauty behind a single comic book panel. The characters were brought to life and now are permanent embodiments of their original creations. The settings of each film give us inside looks into places we know with a different set of eyes, and the things we wish we could have seen from the comic book actually weren't necessary in the end. Zack Snyder and Edgar Wright reinvented the familiar, making for an exciting journey, and that is why Watchmen and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World are the best examples of adaptation, and in my opinion, are some of the best films ever made. Till next time, thanks for watching. See you on the flip side.